We're not sure how this is going to go. Let's see. How's that work? I could explain to you what's taking place with the lighting, but that would be kind of what we're going to talk about today. So I could have used it for a good example. Huh? So let's do this. Jim Adkins here from Jim Adkins Results Coaching, checking in with you after a long hiatus, long for me anyway. I really didn't feel like I had a lot to say. So I did a lot of introspection, a lot of soul searching, a lot of learning, as I like to do. And I came up with an idea today based on some conversations with other people, like always. And the idea is, or what I noticed was, if you look back at my videos and currently watching this one, I have a tendency to explain myself a lot. And I will explain things in more than one way. So I will repeat myself 2 or 3 times, saying it a different way, kind of like I just did. And I have reasons for that. As a teacher, I learned a long time ago that people learn differently. And for me to clarify a point or help them navigate what it is they're about to learn, to share it in a different way helps different people. And sometimes when you hear the same thing over in a different way, it sticks, right? So as a teacher, I've learned to do that. But you can't always be teaching. Now, let me explain that. When we go through life and we run into certain people, or not even certain people, we just say you're in a conversation with whoever. You meet somebody new, you go to see an old friend, or you come home from work and you're talking to your loved ones. And there's a conversation or a hello. And that hello turns into a lengthy explanation of how you feel. Hey, how's it going? Well, this and that, and yesterday and today, and then right now, just a few minutes ago, this guy ran a stop sign, and then over here, and then I saw this lady, and how are you? To over-explain our position sometimes takes away our dignity, sometimes makes us seem as if we are insecure. Now, these are all perceptions of other people. And what I want to get to about the explanation or over-explaining yourself, or the title of this is Stop Explaining Yourself. It's not necessarily something you have to do, but it's something I want you to think about. And then share with me your ideas. So I've heard it said that, number one, if you over-explain yourself, you lose your dignity. Well, let's listen to that for a minute, or think about that for a minute. When you are teaching, it's different than when you are sharing an idea, which is also different than when you're giving an opinion, which is also different than a simple conversation. All can be blended together, right? You can teach during a conversation, and you can share. These are all possibilities that blend. But let's look at the difference for a second, and let's put dignity in there, because I'm not sure I like the idea. I think that it can kind of go along sometimes, but let's look at it this way. Let's say you have voiced your opinion, and it was a simple, brief, opinionated answer to a question or an observation. And the people around you vary in depth of relationship, meaning you may have a better relationship with one than you do others. Everybody in the vicinity that hears or is associated with the activity will judge you not based on your explanation, not even based truly on what it is you say, but the way they perceive the situation themselves. Then they'll plug in what you say, and they'll make a judgment based on their own experience of who they are. That's all they've got. That's all they've got to judge you by. So to explain ourselves further would be our own need to try to get them to understand us. Is that absolutely necessary? Well, you might say yes for certain relationships. I want to further this relationship, and this person really misunderstood what it was I said about this. Let me explain myself further. Might be a good example, right? Let's go further and let's look at the dignity part. Let's say you've got an argumentative person or a manipulator, and they question what it is you just witnessed and stated. And again, this is a hypothetical situation, correct? And how dare you think that way, or how could you say that, or how, again, their interpretation of the situation and what you said is solely based on their own personal experience, and really most of the time has nothing to do with who you are or what you said, but all about them. But you go further to explain, and you give it a lengthy explanation because you might feel that what you said you don't have confidence in, or it was an impression at the moment that you might want to retract later. All possibilities, right? And really good ideas. I have said things, and I'm sure everybody has at one time or another, where you have a knee-jerk response to a surface situation or explanation, and then upon further investigation or observation, you realize that maybe you want to change what it is you said. And it's okay to do that, but some people don't let you do that, especially a manipulator. Okay. And you guys know who the manipulators are. And there are good and bad points about manipulators, but we'll go back into that further. So losing your dignity would be trying to over explain yourself to somebody or a situation that really doesn't matter. And when I say that, I'm going to explain myself here in a minute. People get all uptight. All people matter. Well, yes and no. Because at the moment that this person becomes an agitation to the situation or a misrepresentation of who you truly are, and they try to perpetuate that, they don't matter anymore. Let them go, move away from that situation, and move to the points in your life that matter the most to you. Because if that's not getting you closer to your goal or the betterment of who you are, leave it alone. You don't need to over explain yourself, right? Good. It confuses things. Watch some of my videos. As a teacher, like I said, I like to repeat things. You heard this before in different ways. And in doing so, my mind starts to follow a completely different idea or path. And I try to get it all to you at once. So the more I explain something in some of the old videos, and maybe this one, the more new ideas formulate for one simple idea, and it confuses things. Not for me, but for some other people. And they enjoy it. They have fun with it. They say sometimes it's like listening to jazz, and they'll listen to me talk, and oh, they follow me here and follow me there. If you go back enough times, eventually you get all the ideas, right? So explaining yourself or over explaining yourself can sometimes confuse things. I'd like to explain the difference in the lighting, but I won't. Some people said, and I wrote these down, that it lowers your self-confidence. And that is true as well. If you've ever had a conversation with somebody where you felt like you needed to over-explain yourself, let's say you've got a relative that just misunderstood one thing that you said, and they've built their opinion on who they think you are now based on what you said, and they think they know a lot about the way you feel about other people in the world based on one thing that you said, and you feel like you need to explain yourself to them. And you try to over-explain, and you leave the situation and you go, you know what? I don't know why I did that, or man, I sure hope that they don't think that way about me anymore. And you lose your self-confidence. You start to lower your self-confidence when really how you feel is who you are and how you feel. And you can change it's okay to change your mind. You don't have to make a snap judgment about anything and decide that that's who you are forever. You can say this about something or that about something, go back and reflect and allow yourself the opportunity to grow and change. Do you need to explain that to somebody else? No, but there are times when they will never, ever understand who you are or the ability to be able to change like that, which kind of prompts us to try to explain ourselves, right? Okay. Number 4, they said, trust your own voice. And that's what I was just talking about, trusting your own voice. It's okay to make a judgment or a assumption or um, an observation and verbally express how you feel about it at the time, as long as you're not going along with the crowd just to go along with the crowd, and you trust what you say. Again, that's how you may have felt at the moment. Is it okay to change later? Absolutely. In my martial arts world, I have made snap decisions about people, other martial artists, based on the type of art that they train. Why? Bad experiences, negative people in a certain type of an art that just it ruined it for me. And so everybody became grouped into that position until I meet one or two people that I didn't know were in those art. I got to know the person as an individual, then discovered that's what they trained, and still like the individual. Am I allowed to change my mind? Yeah, of course I am. But it's based on the individual, not the scenario. Makes sense? Good. To a manipulator, and we touched on this. Is it good to over-explain yourself to a manipulator? Now, you'll get a manipulator, and when I say manipulator, it's not always a bad thing, but there are people who use certain verbal skill sets to lead you in a direction to their advantage. And the more you speak, the better arsenal they have against you. Example, a salesperson. Yeah, and listen, I did this in college. I know what it's like to be a salesperson, especially on the phone. And I did this after college too. I was pretty much a salesperson. I think we all sell ourselves in certain ways. But here we go. You get a salesperson on the phone. They start their spiel and they say, "Hey, how's it going?" They keep talking to you until you give them a response. Your response leads them to the next statement, which guides you in a path. And they'll give you yes or no, one or two today or tomorrow answers until you come up with an objection that they can deal with. And then they'll keep talking. And the more you talk, the more they're going to win. There's an old adage when you work on the sales, you make the pitch and you shut up. And the first person that talks loses. Explain why you don't want it. They'll come back with a reason that you do. Okay? One idea. And now listen, again, it's not a bad thing, but let's talk about law enforcement. You're told to shut up in any situation. And I'm assuming that you're the good person and a bad person enters your world and you deal with that bad person one way or the other. And law enforcement is shown because that's their job. They come to organize the scene and restore order in a sense to the surroundings, not necessarily you, but the surroundings. When they start asking questions, it is in your best interest to be quiet. The more you talk, and some of them, not all of them, because listen, there's some great law enforcement individuals out there, and then there's some that aren't so great. It's the same in any walk of life, right? I'm not picking on law enforcement because it's everywhere. But you get the ones who want to do a good job and get you to admit to something that you never did. They don't know that. They would prefer to have the confession now based on their observation of what's taking place and their past experience. They may think they know you, and you may feel like you want to judge them, right? Or you want them to judge you in a good light. So you try to explain yourself, and the more you speak and the more you try to explain, the worse it gets, right? So those are just two examples. I've had people like this in my personal life too, in business, to where you would combat their lie with an explanation of why that is not the truth. And the more you try to explain the truth to this manipulative liar, the worse it gets because they try to turn your words back on you. You had that experience? And that's the time you just want to punch them, and then the law comes, and then you have to explain yourself to the law. I'm just kidding. Don't punch anybody. All right. So those are some simple ideas. Do you feel like you need to explain yourself? to everybody? That's just a question I want you to ponder today. And if you do, kind of share with me why you think that is. I know why I do it, and I'll give you 3 types of places that I do that, and I'll explain to you why. As a teacher, it is important to explain what it is you want the student to learn. And to learn to explain something clearly based on their experiences is an art form. So you have to become a good listener as well as a good explainer. You choose to ask a question, you listen, and then you explain how what it is you want to share as a teacher fits into what it is they want to learn. One of my drawbacks is I try to teach everybody all the time. I'm always in teaching mode. I've been looking for the button, but I haven't been able to turn it off yet. Number 2, when you're trying to share an idea with somebody that you've come across, like right now, this to me, I'm not teaching. Right now, I'm sharing with you an idea that I came across and that I find very interesting. And I'm not sure whether it's a right or wrong. That's not what this is about. This is about, hey, how do you feel? This is how I feel. This is what I found out. It's something I want to change in myself. And it's something I see in my son, who gets it from me, I'm sure, where he will try to over explain himself. And when he does, sometimes when you listen to him, he loses you because he's very intelligent. And I want to share with him some thoughts, as well as myself, on how to back that down a little bit and learn to answer with an honest yes or no, a simple phrase to explain your feelings or your thought or your position, and move forward. I will share this with you as a teaching moment. See, I told you the button doesn't go off. If you're looking for a new job or a new career or anything that involves an interview, to where somebody's interviewing you for advancement, furtherment, or whatever, and they say, please tell me about yourself. This is a time when most people over explain, and you really need to be careful to answer the question that they've asked. And we can go into questions later. I love questions, and I could do a whole series on how to ask questions and how to answer the correct questions, but we'll do that next time. Who are you? Should you show people to judge? Okay, based on that, I've wrote down some notes here so that I don't get too off track. Difference in teaching and explaining yourself, right? And sharing an idea with somebody. Those are things. And there are times our need to explain ourselves. Okay. One of the things I did notice about explaining ourselves is there are times when we just need to talk and we just need to speak out loud what it is we're thinking. And we need a friend or a friend that will listen and be honest with you, and either one, philosophically converse with the idea until you come up with, hey, that was a cool thought, or man, what the heck was I thinking, right? You need that outward verbalization of the interior ideas like this. You need that, and you need that friend to respond to you and share back their ideas, or even just listen to you. Sometimes point out when you're being an idiot. What the heck are you thinking? And then you explain yourself. Or, point out, wow, I've never thought about it that way. And I like it. There are a lot of subjects that you can talk about that people will over explain or try to force their opinion. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a self-introspection of the idea of over explaining yourself. Why do we do it? When do we do it? And is it beneficial? 3 ways that you can teach, share an idea with somebody, or have a simple conversation with one that you love. Do you need to explain to them why you love them? The main thing that I've learned from this is no matter how much you explain yourself, most people will judge you. Good or bad, judgment doesn't always have to be bad, but they will judge you based on their own personal experience, who they are, and how they feel about the situation or idea that pertains to your explanation. Can you change that in people? Do you want to? I don't know. New Year's coming up, people. I hope you had a great Christmas or a great holiday if you celebrate other things than Christmas right around this year. It was a different year for us. We can talk about that later and how becoming an empty nester might have something to do with that. But anyway, I hope you guys had a great holiday season. There is hardly any snow up here in Michigan right now. It's amazing. My granddaughter came to see us from a warmer state and brought the heat with her. Thank you, Gigi. All right, you guys. I love you. Until I see you next time, on your mark, get set. And I'm not sure when next time will be. Probably Friday. Have a great New Year. Grow.